The very first piece of advice I have for any parent who thinks their child either may have psychopathy or might be at risk for psychopathy is to remember to put on your own oxygen mask first. This is a very harrowing journey, and you will need to be able to have enough energy to get through it. You're going to need to be able to take care of yourself. You're no good to anybody if you are frazzled, if you are, losing your mind because you can't take another second. You have to be able to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anybody else. The second piece of advice is to pull up your bootstraps, baby, because it's going to be a wild ride. It is not going to be easy. It is going to be the hardest thing you will ever have done. And it's just going to get harder and harder. And it doesn't really ever get easier until or unless they finally age out. And even then, it might still not be a great journey. The third piece of advice I have to give you is document, document, document. Treat it like you are potty training a puppy. Do it on the paper. Do everything in writing. You want every communication with the school to be in writing, every communication with the teacher to be in writing. You want to keep notes of every conversation you have. You want dates, times. When I say times, I mean exact times, not 3:30, but 3:32 to 3:37, had a conversation with the principal of the school. The principal said this. I would literally go home and spend hours writing out my notes from the conversations that I had with teachers and principals and whoever else at the school. I would actually spend longer writing out the notes for the conversations than I would have spent actually having the conversations. You are going to need to learn whatever local laws are applicable to your state, your county, because your laws vary from not just from state to state, but also from county to county. You can go from one county to the very next neighboring county and have completely different rules and regulations and laws, and have law enforcement enforce completely different things. So you have to know what's what where you are. You're going to need to learn all of the information about the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, otherwise known as IDEA. You will need to learn information on how to help get your child an appropriate IEP, or individualized education plan. And you will need to do all of this while also parenting your child, presumably having a relationship with your significant other, parenting any other child you might have, and oh, by the way, feeding your children and yourself, and possibly, working and cleaning the house and all of that stuff. It is a more than full-time job. The other thing, of course, is to reach out to other parents like yourself. Find a good support group. If I might plug my own group, Parents of Children with Conduct Disorder, that's a really, really good place to start. You obviously don't have to use my group, but find somebody that you can talk to. Find somebody in your support system, even if they aren't a parent. And actually, as a funny side note, I find oftentimes that people without children can be sometimes more accepting of what we go through, because at least they understand that they're not parents and they don't understand what parenting is like. Just find a good support system. Read everything you can possibly get your hands on. Read Neuroscience, because it is all in their brains. It is, these children have completely differently, well, not completely differently, but, misshapen brains, essentially. There are parts of the brains that are thicker and thinner and have increased surface area and decreased surface area and a bunch of other stuff that, I'm not a neuroscientist and I'm not really going to get into, but there are very, very physical differences in the brain that can be seen with imaging. And, this is a very, very real thing that is happening in their brain, because their brain it grows differently than a quote unquote normal brain. And you need to be up on the research for all of that stuff. And presumably, at some point in your life, you also need to sleep. That is the other thing. Get as much sleep as you possibly can, and take care of yourself. And, you know, good nutrition. Good nutrition is really, really good. And all of the things that you can do to feed your own brain, you need to give yourself, cut yourself as much slack as you possibly can. And finally, when you don't have anybody else to talk to and you don't know what to do and you're feeling really, really overwhelmed by everything, pretend that you are the person you love most in the world and you are coming to yourself for advice. And then listen to your own story the way you would listen to somebody else telling you that same story if you loved them, and treat yourself the same way you would treat the person you love most in the world if they came to you with that story, and give yourself the same advice that you would give to that person, and then follow it. And above all, remember to breathe.